the best. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Guleda, for your address. May I now request Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, Confederation for Indian Industry, to please deliver his.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to everyone. It's really an honor and pleasure to see such a star-studded start to this India Healthcare Week, and I'm particularly honored to welcome Dr. Vardhan, the Honorable Minister for Health and Family Welfare, Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, as the chief guest for this very important function. Welcome, Dr. Vardhan. Great to see and indeed a pleasure to welcome Mr. Ashwini Kumar Chaubey, our Honorable Minister for State for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and of course Mr. Vinod Paul, the member Niti Aayog, and we had a lovely opening address by Dr. Randeep Guleria, who is chairing the CII's Public Health Council. Of course, is well known as the director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So I just really wanted to salute in the beginning the huge work done by the leadership of this team, led by the Honorable Minister, in such challenging times that our country around the world has been going through. And for us, it is good to see such an assuring and a reassuring leadership we have from our ministers present here, and also the Team India, which has done such to prevent us from getting into a sort of a disaster. It's important to really understand the context as to how CII has got involved, and I think on this matter of and just as I thank the Honorable Minister for taking his valuable here at the inauguration of the CII Healthcare Week, which is a full week of work, and it is critical and of the medical emergency the whole nation is today going through. It's a big signal to see that this leadership team of India is present here today, led by our Honorable Minister, to give us that assurance. As we go along, of course, we have the public health dimension today, followed by Ayurveda tomorrow, and day after the MedTech dimension. And it's fantastic to see the response that we have today. People who are participating in this conference, along with 50 very critical, important exhibitors, so virtually present, and there are 12 countries participating, and I think that's a very, very important data point for me. And so many sessions, close to about 26 knowledge sessions, and different state governments, 5 states participating, which makes this healthcare week very wholesome in terms of the way we are going to approach and participate from the industry, from CII, in seeing how this is. We are all in it together. For us in CII today, healthcare is an important issue. We have kept it in our primary focus areas of this year. We have kept it in our priority list, amongst others with education. But healthcare takes center stage. We have been faced with a challenging disaster of a kind, this pandemic, and therefore it is quite natural to have healthcare to be in the center stage. But we think in times to come, if we are able to contribute and participate under the directions and guidance of this leadership team as to how CII and its industry and its membership can collaborate and participate and partner in seeing that many challenges that are actually well handled in the country through this in a partnership approach. In a vast country like India, it's not appropriate for us to always expect everything to be done by the government. So we would really expect a lot of participation and collaboration from many other stakeholders, and that's where we come in to see. Today we have this phenomenal team with government, the DT, a health provider with the leadership at AIMS, and many others like them who are present here in this conference. The industry would like to see how it can bring in its own to it to see how we are able to contribute and work with you under the leadership of Team India to see how we are able to mitigate this challenge. We spread across the country with all our offices today at disposal. We would see that we are able to collaborate. Recent examples have been our seeing to it that the industry forms its own coalition to see that India can can manufacture a ventilator to a PPE, masks, etc. All of this, we had a huge amount of work which was done at our end in terms of over the last few months, including our foundation getting involved in seeing that people are taken. We could take care of our people. We could give a lot of care, or even in the aspects of sanitization. And there is an important role in that also for industry to be very, very careful. The industry to be to demonstrate leadership, and all of it is something that we have learned and worked upon in the last four and a half months. And the last 4 months have taught us many lessons. But we would like to bring to the fore to all those lessons that we have learned, to see that how our partnership would be meaningful as we work with our governments and certainly see that people of the country are taken care of. But once again, I would like to conclude by thanking Dr. Vardhan, Mr. Ashwini Kumar Chaube for really participating with us today. That gives us the encouragement. That gives us a huge amount of satisfaction as to how not only that we are in safe hands, but also that here is someone who is willing to listen to us, and also someone who would be able to tell us as to how they think that we can contribute in this challenging time. So with that, I'd like to once again thank for this phenomenal response and participation, and welcome all of you to this very important conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. May I now request Dr. Vinod Paul, Member Niti Aayog, to kindly deliver his address.
Director Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, respected Dr. Vardhan, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Shri Ashwini Kumar Chaube, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Professor Guleria, and distinguished colleagues, I congratulate you for the conference. I'm delighted to be a part of this conclave in difficult times. The fact remains that in these difficult times, the entire health sector, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, has come together to face this calamity and to come to a stage where the world community appreciates India's approach, India's intensity, as well as India's success in containing the pandemic of SARS-CoV-2. I'm very pleased and very appreciative of the fact that the private sector has risen to the occasion, and not just in the space of medical products and health products that have already been referred to, but also in providing care to the cases, to the patients suffering from COVID-19. It's a great achievement, and it shows that ultimately India's health sector is one sector, one integrated sector, public and private. We will continue to work together, and we will fight this battle together, and India will succeed. I'd like to take this opportunity to make 3 points. And those are more by way of our continuing effort for the medium and the long term. This also may be a time when we are in some way less occupied because a lot of our routine work is not happening, unfortunately. But it is therefore also a time for us to think through how to look at medium-term future and long-term future. And that discussion must go on even as we are fighting the COVID-19 on a daily basis. My 3 points are the following. First, the path-breaking Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana has now matured and to serve the people of India effectively. More than 1 crore procedures, admissions have been provided and at a speed which is phenomenal. Of course, there is some decline in the usage and uptake of services as you would expect in this phase, which is unusual and unfortunate. But the fact remains that PMJ has been a historic development, a path-breaking, game-changing development in the health sector. When we look at how we have moved on, yes, a lot of lessons were learned, a lot of uptake happened, and it happened because the public and the private sector worked together. But I have concerns about the supply side of PMJ as we unfold further. If you look at how much participation of the private sector is, it is still confined to something like 12,000 hospitals. What is also of concern is large hospitals, bigger than, let's say, 300-bedded hospitals, are relatively few. We, under the leadership of our health minister, sir, should examine what we can do to increase the participation of the hospitals in general, but also to examine why the larger hospitals, in particular, that are the multi-specialty hospitals, and that is a special space for the needs of the tertiary care space in the secondary plus space. Why they have not come into our fold, and what is it that we can do collectively to get them into our fold so that PMJ becomes a stronger scheme. It has sufficient supplies, the maximum possible supplies, both from the public sector side as well as from the private sector side. And that is the way it should be, because this is the future umbrella scheme for universal health coverage for secondary and tertiary care. And therefore, sir, the time has come that we, through a process of dialogue, examine why this has not happened so far and why we cannot have another 20,000 private hospitals into the fold of PMJ. I request that we start that process systematically, and I also request the private sector. To please also accommodate. We have had issues about the reimbursements and so on, but remember that there is time for change, because the private sector is fashioned on business models which are in any case very variable. For the same medical service, the factor of payment may be 5x or 10x or even more at times. And therefore, and when a scheme is operating, it has to operate in a certain bandwidth of payment structure. And therefore, there has to be a way in such a form that as we move forward, we come together and we create a new health system, supply side health system, where the aspirations of the poor, aspirations of the middle classes, and aspirations of the higher classes of our country are taken care of. And this becomes then the mega ocean into which all the schemes merge and we serve the nation in the best possible manner. So it's time for reflection, time for reviewing, and time to energize PMJ on the supply side. There are other issues, but I'm talking about the supply side. Even as we will push the public sector side to have increased capacities, increased quality, and increased level of services. My second point relates to augmentation of the health infrastructure per se. We just by ballpark figure, we need 1 lakh more beds, if not even more than that, to achieve 2 beds per 1,000 by the year 2025. We need to roughly double the number of beds. I think the speed with which these beds are rising, it's not sufficient. And we should examine how an impetus can be given to actual hardcore increase in the health infrastructure. What is holding us back? Is it investment? Is it laws? Is it incentives? Is it FDI? Let's talk about it, because there has been no progress, practically little progress in the last 2 years that we could have expected. Things to be moving in a positive direction. And under the leadership of the Honorable Health Minister, we would all work together to see how a huge impetus can be given, should be given, must be given to ensure that we have a large infrastructure that this nation deserves. And we have enunciated this in our national health policy. My third point relates to the role that the private sector and private health sector industry should play. And that relates to the fact that you have a great role to play in terms of training of specialists, training of doctors, training of high quality nurses. I think there is so much scope, because you have 6 lakh beds. And this is every bed is a learning ground for health professionals. Health professional learning does not happen in classroom, dry classroom. It happens on the bedside, in the hospital. So much more should be done by the private sector industry to train our doctors, train our specialists, and train nurses, particularly in the space of high-end nursing, specialized nursing. Again, this is something that we have talked from time to time, but I think a breakthrough is still awaiting. So, Mr. Banerjee, we must systematically look into how this has to be done. Have milestones toward this. Let CII take lead and demonstrate that this can happen. And in addition to the generic idea of participation for human resource development, professional life should have also mentioned acute scope. So we must come together in doing so. And when we do, it helps improving services in the private sector, hospitals themselves. And that's about quality. That's also about increased productivity. It is truly a win-win situation. And we must therefore examine why we have lackluster number of training opportunities, hardcore training opportunities in the private sector. Let me illustrate this by a number. 6 lakh beds are in the private sector. And together, through the MBE system, we get about 6,000 specialists trained each year. And then in the remaining system, which is the medical colleges, including private medical colleges, so some hospitals I'm counting on the other side, we have 45,000 specialists, more than 40,000 specialists. I think it will be 45,000 this year. So 40,000 vis-a-vis 6,000. Every bed that we have in this nation is a teaching bed. Every we have is for clinical care, and it's a teaching bed for the nurses and the doctors. I think we must understand this as a principle, and then find how we can do so much more. Let's say a major hospital chain in our country, which has, let's say, 4,000 beds, should be in a position to have 1,500 or let's say 1,000 DNB seats every year. Why that particular chain has only 80 seats or 120 seats? Why? This must change, and therefore I urge you that kindly embrace the National Board of Examination system in multiple ways, for DNB courses, for SND courses, and now you have a new opportunity. I'll talk about 3 opportunities. And this is the first one, that now this is a small nursing home, relatively less endowed. You can now do diploma courses, which are 2-year courses, where the requirements are less than the DNB courses. Could you please rise to the occasion? 8 such courses for the core broad specialties have been launched. Our second opportunity is for your consultants to be visiting faculty to the district hospitals that are running MBE courses, as also the medical colleges where they can serve as visiting faculty to top up their work and to teach the students, to excite the students, and to be able to contribute in the best possible manner for the training of doctors in particular. Your third opportunity is that we have in the MCI way back now, almost way back, we have created a regulation in which not 1, but 2 or 3 entities can come together to create a medical college system. So till that time, till before this particular option became available as a regulation, one entity only could create a hospital or a medical college. That means it will be one company, one organization, one NGO, one society, which will have medical college, which will have a hospital, and which will also have, let's say, residential quarters. Everything in one entity. So, several months ago, we came out with a regulation in which a consortium of 2 or 3 entities can come together. So you have a hospital, you join hands with somebody who is willing to invest in creating a medical college, and that may be a previous engineering college which is now not working. So that is your contribution. Running medical college, running hospital is the contribution of the second entity, and the third one can be a builder who just builds a residential area for hostels in a premises going 8 floors. 3 of you can come together and create medical college. It hasn't happened. To my knowledge, there is only one application over this one year period. Why? I would request you to kindly think about giving impetus to these are the ideas we heard from you, but now they are not being used. And I request you to kindly let's talk about these specific things that would work beyond the generic. And I hope that will be one of the outcomes of the meeting. And the last one on education is under the stewardship and benevolence of our minister, Dr. Harshvardhan ji. We are at the cusp of having a fellowship scheme for the DNB candidates. It will be a scheme where DNB candidates will be given a stipend which will partly offset your spending on paying them the full stipend. So you will only contribute partly. We will come out with the details of this stipend once it is formally organized. But that's one stimulus that you wanted, and now it has seen progressive movement, and we are at a decision point. But you already know that this is something which the Honorable Finance Minister had hinted at, broadly hinted at in the budget speech. So that's a commitment of the government to give impetus to DNB programs in large hospitals, whether they are private or public sector. And here, because most of them, well, very many large hospitals belong to the private sector, obviously this is something which will give impetus to the educational work that you all can perform. My request is let's now, it's time that we think about specific ideas, specific milestones, specific commitments to take these processes forward. At the supply side for our Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, for creation of infrastructure, as well as using opportunities of the private sector for training up health professionals. We have expressed intent, but it is time for us to deliver on it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. May I now request our Honorable Minister of State, Health, Mr. Ashwini Kumar Chaubey, to kindly deliver his address.
CII के द्वारा इस स्वास्थ्य परिचर्चा में भाग ले रहे हमारे आदरणीय लोकप्रिय स्वास्थ्य एवं परिवार कल्याण मंत्री, साथ ही विज्ञान एवं प्रौद्योगिकी मंत्री के रूप में यहाँ वर्चुअल रूप से उपस्थित आदरणीय श्री डॉक्टर हर्षवर्धन जी, साथ ही यहाँ सदस्य नीति आयोग के जो सदस्य हैं और एमसीआई के अध्यक्ष के नाते श्री वीके पॉल जी, डॉक्टर वीके पॉल, डॉक्टर रणदीप गुलेरिया जी जो निदेशक हैं अखिल भारतीय आयुर्विज्ञान संस्थान नई दिल्ली में, श्री चंद्रजीत बनर्जी महानिदेशक, मुख्य रूप से भारतीय उद्योग परिसंघ, और साथ ही निर्जा भाटिया जी और उपस्थित सभी सीआईआई के पदाधिकारीगण, आज इस एक बड़े सम्मेलन जिसको अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से हम लोग एक दूसरे से जुड़े हुए हैं, इस कार्यक्रम में विशेष रूप से आपने सम्मेलन और प्रदर्शनी का भी आयोजन वर्चुअल रूप से जिसका शुभारंभ माननीय स्वास्थ्य मंत्री जी अभी करने वाले हैं और इसके साथ ही टीबी की कंप्लेन का भी और पब्लिक हेल्थ रिपोर्ट भी आपके CIA का रिपोर्ट का भी जारी करेंगे जो एक प्रशंसनीय आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी श्री नरेंद्र भाई मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में पूरी दुनिया में भारत में स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में एक अलग पहचान बनाने का काम किया। आप सभी जानते हैं कि पिछले 6 सालों में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में देश के स्वास्थ्य एवं हर प्रकार से में कह सकते हैं हर क्षेत्र में महत्वपूर्ण कार्य हुए और देशवासी कम किफायती और सर्वसुलभ बेहतर स्वास्थ्य कैसे प्रदान हो इसके लिए सभी प्रकार के कदम उठाए गए। 2017 की जो हमारी स्वास्थ्य नीति है पहली बार 12 वर्षों के बाद सर्दार अटल जी की सरकार के बाद अगर स्वास्थ्य नीति बनी तो 2017 में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र भाई मोदी जी के मार्गदर्शन में और तत्कालीन स्वास्थ्य मंत्री वर्तमान में भारतीय जनता पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष श्री जगत प्रकाश नड्डा जी के नेतृत्व में सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया इसी को आधार मान करके स्वास्थ्य एवं परिवार कल्याण मंत्री ने मंत्रालय के द्वारा ये हमारी नीति निर्धारित हुई और कह सकते हैं इसमें कैसे बेहतर स्वास्थ्य प्रदान हो इसके लिए प्रिवेंटिव, प्रोग्रेसिव, प्रोमोटिव, पैलिएटिव और एफोर्डेबल हेल्थ केयर की जो कल्पना है उसको कैसे साकार किया जाए तो दृष्टिकोण से स्वास्थ्य मंत्रालय लगातार प्रयत्नशील सार्वभौमिक स्वास्थ्य प्रदान करने के लिए भारत सरकार का स्वास्थ्य एवं परिवार कल्याण मंत्रालय पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध है और दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी अनूठी स्वास्थ्य योजना जो विगत वर्षों में हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के मार्गदर्शन में आयुष्मान भारत के रूप में जो सफलतापूर्वक देश के 55 करोड़ आबादी को बेहतर स्वास्थ्य सुविधा उपलब्ध कराने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है और उसको लेकर के पूरे देश में आपने देखा कि पिछले 1 साल के अंदर 60 करोड़ से भी ज्यादा लोगों ने इस प्रधानमंत्री जन आरोग्य योजना का लाभ उठाने का काम किया है और बहुत सारे गरीब जनधन ऐसे शुरू देहात में रहने वाले वनवासी क्षेत्र में रहने वाले लाखों लोगों ने सुविधा का पूरी तरह से लाभ उठाया है और जहाँ तक आयुष्मान भारत का जो दूसरा पार्ट जो हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस सेक्टर देश के अंदर लगभग 1.5 लाख हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस सेंटर तो कई राज्यों में बीमारू हालात में इलनेस हालात में उसको वेलनेस बनाने का यह काम प्रधानमंत्री जी ने आयुष्मान भारत में सौंपा है और आने वाले 2022 तक हमारा 1.5 लाख हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस सेंटर बन जाएगा जिसमें लगभग अभी तक 45,000 से ज्यादा हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस सेंटर बन चुके हैं जिसमें 12 प्रकार की जो कह सकते हैं कि स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं भी उपलब्ध हो गई और हमारा जो दृष्टिकोण है कि मनुष्य का भगवान ने जो यह शरीर दिया है इस शरीर हमारे लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण कहते हैं कि शरीर मात्र खल धर्म शास्त्र ये शरीर हमारे लिए महत्वपूर्ण है ये भोगी के नहीं बल्कि उपयोगी शरीर का उपभोग करने के लिए बल्कि का जितना अधिक हो सकता है उतना ही ये शरीर हमारे लिए सुंदर होगा। और इसलिए जो पुराने मान्यता के अनुरूप स्वास्थ्य, जो मनुष्य का स्वास्थ्य कैसा हो, भगवान ने क्षितिज जल पावन गगन सभी का पंच तत्व निर्मित किया अदम से। ये पांच तत्वों से निर्मित हमारा ये शरीर, जो आकाश, पृथ्वी, वायु, अग्नि और जल, इसके निश्चित से शरीर का निर्माण और पंच तत्व से निर्मित शरीर या पंच तत्व में ही निर्मित होगा। मतलब शरीर का ठीक है, शरीर नश्वर है, आत्मा अमर है, किंतु जब तक ये शरीर है, शरीर को सुंदर रखना, शरीर को स्वस्थ रखना, ये हमारी जिम्मेवारी बन जाती है। और भारत सरकार ने उसी उद्देश्य से जो WHO ने शायद अभी कहा है और 2000 हो, हमारी परिकल्पना प्रारंभ से ही सर्वे सर्वे है और इसी आधार पर हमने गाँव तक लोगों के अच्छे स्वास्थ्य कैसे हो सकते हैं इसकी चिंता क्या है। अभी वैश्विक महामारी के इस कालखंड में, कोविड-19 के दौर में भारत ने अपनी स्वास्थ्य सेवाओं को और भी अधिक मजबूत बना दिया है, जिसकी सराहना विश्व स्वास्थ्य संगठन ने की है। आप जानते हैं कि इस कोविड के कालखंड में दुनिया में बेहतर प्रयास भारत में हुए हैं। हमने टेस्टिंग, ट्रैकिंग, कॉन्टैक्ट ट्रेसिंग और ट्रीटमेंट, इन सबों पर पूरी तरह से बल देते हुए और अच्छे प्रकार से हम उस काम को कर रहे हैं। हमारी जहाँ तक स्थिति है कि अभी तक कई राज्यों में हम उससे बहुत अच्छे ढंग से निपट रहे हैं। कुछ राज्यों में कोविड भले ही ज्यादा हो, लेकिन वहाँ भी हमारी स्थिति बेहतर ढंग से समाप्त करने के लिए बना है। अभी हाल में ही 15 अगस्त को आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र भाई मोदी जी ने लाल किला के उस प्राचीन नेशनल डिजिटल हेल्थ मिशन के बारे में जो उसकी घोषणा करके शुभारंभ किया और स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में एक क्रांतिकारी कदम। देश के प्रत्येक नागरिक का हेल्थ आइडेंटिफिकेशन नंबर हो जाए, हेल्थ आइडेंटिटी होगा और उसमें मेडिकल संबंधित सभी प्रकार के रिपोर्ट भी और उसका सारा रिकॉर्ड दर्ज होगा। नेशनल डिजिटल हेल्थ मिशन से मेडिकल रिकॉर्ड जो डिजिटल रिकॉर्ड पर आएगा, इससे चिकित्सकीय परामर्श लेने में पहले की तुलना में काफी आसान हो जाएगी। उसमें हर प्रकार के चिकित्सकों का, अस्पतालों का और जब भी जैसा भी लोगों की चिकित्सा हुई है, इसका पूरा विस्तार से उस छोटे से कार्ड पे वर्णन रहेगा। कहीं भी किसी को आवश्यकता पड़े एक मुल्क से दूसरे मुल्क में जाने पर भी और आवश्यकता स्वास्थ्य परीक्षण का पड़े तो तुरंत भी उसकी देखभाल करके और उसका इलाज शुरू हो जाए। तो बहुत बड़ी सोच है, बहुत बड़ा प्रधानमंत्री जी का विजन है। सब लोग इसका काफी लाभ उठाएंगे और सुदूर गाँव में भी रहने वाले लोग तो अपने स्वास्थ्य के प्रति कम जागरूक है और न तो अपना स्वास्थ्य के बारे में कोई रिकॉर्ड अधिकांश लोग रखते हैं। तो इस डिजिटल मिशन के माध्यम से उनका जो हेल्थ कार्ड बनेगा वो बहुत ही उपयोगी होगा। मौजूदा समय में हमने देखा कि कहा टेलीमेडिसिन भारत के अंदर कह सकते हैं कि बेहतर रूप से कार्य कर रहा है। इस कोविड के कालखंड में अपने पहले में सरकार ने और मंत्रालय के द्वारा और टेलीमेडिसिन की सेवा को ओपीडी कहा हमारा बहुत था, अपना टेलीमेडिसिन की सेवा उपलब्ध कराई गई और लाखों लोगों ने इसका लाभ उठाया और अभी अधिकांश जगहों पर टेलीमेडिसिन हमारे विभाग के द्वारा संजीवनी लगातार सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी और टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग कर बेहतर रूप से इस गैस सर्विस को उपलब्ध कराने के लिए वो इसका पूरी तरह से उसको और मजबूत बनाने का काम किया जा रहा है। आप यह भी जानते हैं कि प्रधानमंत्री जी का सपना है कि 2025 तक भारत को टीबी मुक्त बनाने का, और हमारा विश्वास है जहाँ दुनिया में सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल 2030 का रखा है, वहाँ हमारे वैज्ञानिक प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 2025 का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया है। और हमें विश्वास है कि 2025 के पहले भी हम इस लक्ष्य को प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। हम सभी ने देशवासी मिलकर के प्रधानमंत्री के सपनों को साकार करेंगे और कई में मंत्रालय द्वारा लगातार कई प्रकार के काम किए जा रहे हैं, जहाँ तक उन्हें साहसिक रूप से और महत्वाकांक्षी प्रतियोगिताओं के साथ और नए दृष्टिकोणों को हमने न्याय स्वास्थ्य को बेहतर करने के लिए इसमें सामाजिक संगठनों विशेष करके औद्योगिक संगठनों की बहुत बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रहेगी। और इस कड़ी में यह कार्यक्रम निश्चित तौर पर प्रेरित करने का काम है। CII के द्वारा जो लगातार स्वास्थ्य से संबंधित अन्य विषयों को के अतिरिक्त विशेष रूप से स्वास्थ्य के संबंध में हर वर्ष और प्राय परिसर का और लोगों की चिंता करने का जो काम और डाटा इकट्ठा करने का काम, यह तो एक परोपकारी काम CII करती रही है, निश्चित रूप से वो प्रशंसनीय है। पिछले वर्षों में परिवार स्वास्थ्य एवं परिवार कल्याण मंत्रालय ने टीबी मरीजों के उपचार की गुणवत्ता में सुधार लाने के लिए व्यापक रूप से तो सपोर्ट सिस्टम है उसको तैयार करने के लिए अथक प्रयास किए। आप यह भी जानते हैं कि देश में टीबी के सभी मामलों को ऑनलाइन अनुसूचित करने का काम लगभग पूरा होने पर 24 लाख रोगियों को अधिसूचित किया गया है। इसमें से 6.2 लाख रोगी अकेले निजी क्षेत्र में जो है वो कार्यरत है और ड्रग रेजिस्टेंट टीबी के उपचार के लिए 711 ड्रग रेजिस्टेंट टीबी केंद्रों का संचालन भी कर दिया गया है। ये सारे हमारे विभाग के द्वारा महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठाए गए। मैं आप सबों से भी यह अपील करना चाहूंगा कि 2025 तक भारत के 6 रोग उन्मूलन के जो हमारे लक्ष्य है उसको हासिल करने में तो एक गतिशील दृष्टिकोण अपनाने तथा केंद्र सरकार द्वारा किए जा रहे प्रयासों में आपका सहयोग अपेक्षित है और उसमें आप सब मिलकर इस बीमारी से जुड़े कलंक और भेदभाव के चक्र को तोड़ने की जो संकल्प है उसको सिद्धि तक पहुंचाने में कामयाब होंगे। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के 6 रोग मुक्त भारत 6 रोग भारत के स्वप्न को पूरा करने में आपकी सहायता पूरी तरह से मील का पत्थर सिद्ध होगा। आइए 6 रोग के उन्मूलन के लिए हम लोग एक हो जहाँ इस वैश्विक महामारी को समाप्त करने के लिए कोविड का भारत खुलेगा बहुत जल्द ही हम कोविड से मुक्ति पाएंगे। और अंत में मैं यह कहूँगा कि CII ने जो कदम उठाया निश्चित रूप से ये सबों को प्रेरित करता रहेगा और निजी क्षेत्रों में स्वास्थ्य के प्रति जो जागरूकता लाने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका का निर्वहन करेगा, इसमें कहीं दो मत नहीं। इस तरह के सम्मेलन इस तरह के स्वास्थ्य परिचर्चा के आयोजन करके हमें अपनी रणनीति को हमने उल्लंघन करने का जो अवसर प्रदान होता है। मुझे विश्वास है कि आपने जो 2 दिवसीय सम्मेलन विभिन्न सत्र में अपने स्वास्थ्य देखभाल स्थिति की के उन्नयन के लिए तो विभिन्न दृष्टिकोण प्रदान करेंगे और वो भी लोगों के द्वारा जो प्रस्ताव जो विचार आएंगे वो केंद्र सरकार को भी आपके और भी अमल करेंगे। और इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देते हुए पुनः आपका आभार व्यक्त करना चाहता हूँ कि आपने वैश्विक महामारी में और प्रत्यक्ष रूप से आज जो परिस्थिति है वो भरपूर रूप से इस पर चर्चा में भाग ले रहे हैं, ये हमारे लिए अत्यंत ही गौरवपूर्ण है। और मैं आप सबके प्रति आभार व्यक्त करते हुए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, नमस्कार, जय हिंद।
Thank you so much, sir. We are now lined up for the series of launches. Today, in the presence of Honorable Health Minister Dr. Vardhan, Minister of State for Health Mr. Ashwini Kumar Chaudhary, Mr. Chandradeep Banerjee, Director General for Confederation of Indian Industry, Dr. Vinod Paul, Member Niti Aayog, Dr. Randeep Pateria, Director, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. CII requests all of you to kindly join us in formally declaring the CII India Healthcare Week exhibition open. We will be having over 50 exhibitors as part of this week-long exhibition, showcasing some of their digital innovations across medical technology, diagnostics, public health, as well as Ayurveda, wellness, and healthcare. CII is committed to complementing government's ongoing efforts to fight TB. We announced the launch of the CII TB-Free Workplaces campaign. As part of this 3-year-long campaign, even as CII engages and capitalizes its industry members towards committing to a TB-free workplace, may I request our esteemed guests to stand by for the launch. The TB-Free Workplaces campaign includes an exhaustive toolkit with a teaching app, a web portal to engage the industry, along with the best practices compendium, put together by USAID, ITE Global, the Union, in partnership with CII. This will be a live document that the corporates can continue to contribute to, as well as draw inspiration for initiatives that they may undertake at their respective workplaces. A soft copy of these will be available on the CII website. And finally, we announced the release of the report on strengthening public health delivery role of multiple stakeholders, a vision document prepared by CII in partnership with Chase India. This report as well will be available for download on the CII website. Thank you so much for joining us for these very, very critical launches. May I now request Honorable Health Minister Dr. Vardhan to kindly deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My dear colleague, Shri Ashwini Chaudhary ji in the Health Ministry.
We can't hear the Honorable Minister.
Just let me check. Can you all hear me? Hello? Good morning, can you hear me? Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning, yes, please, sir. We can hear you.
I'm sorry for this technical snag. It's always, unfortunately, we are advancing in technology, but even then you encounter all these things. Anyway, good morning once again, all of you, my dear friends at CII, my dear colleague Shri Ashwini Chaube ji in the ministry, Dr. V.K. Paul, Dr. Randeep Guleria, and our very dynamic and ever active Shri Chandrajit Banerjee ji, the Director General of CII, and also I understand the man who invited me and sent me the letter for this program, Dr. Naresh Trehan, the Chairman of the Health Council. He is here in this CII conference and not in his operation theatre right now. And all other members, distinguished members of the CII, all those participants from a dozen countries, as was reported by Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, all the industry exhibitors, and all the over 700 participants in this very important event. For me, it's a very, very privileged moment, because opening something which is organized by CII, and that too for the field of health, and that too for a week or so, and there also more dedicated to public health issues, which are the most pertinent and relevant in these times. I think this is a great thing that you have done. I must congratulate CII and our dear friends there. As I have said this on a number of occasions, my public life is about 27 years now, and during the course of these 27 years, I had the privilege to be not only Minister for Health in the capital and at the national level, but also Minister for Education, Science and Technology, Minister for Environment, and also Minister for Earth Sciences now. There is hardly any field which I can't recall where the CII has not been participating, has not been contributing quite significantly. And sometimes I feel that as Minister for all other subjects, I have been participant in CII deliberations, so that speaks volumes about the contribution and passion of the CII and its movement for strengthening the critical areas in the country. So it's a great moment for me, and I must thank you, because you have brought this issue of tuberculosis free places, and then creating this exhibition dedicated to that, and then strengthening the public health movement also at the most opportune time. As has been, I am not going to repeat many of those things which have been said by the earlier speakers, but you will all appreciate that tuberculosis elimination from the country is one of our very passionate dreams, and it is something which has been appealed to all of us, and very passionately the Prime Minister talks about it, and for years we have been looking at and waiting for that day when we can actually get rid of tuberculosis in our country. And the Prime Minister has set a very ambitious goal for us to finish it by 2025, in spite of the fact that the international goal is for the year 2030. And I say that this is the most opportune and the most optimum time, because when I look at it in the light of many other things that are, because when we think about tuberculosis as a medical professional, we can see that it is something which mostly usually happens to, not that it doesn't happen to the rich and the affluent, but it usually happens, it usually affects the poor people, it usually affects people who have insanitary conditions around them, who have very small houses where there are congested places, there is not good quality air to breathe, and then who are deprived of adequate amount of calories, etc., etc. And right now we are having at the helm of affairs a Prime Minister who is very dynamic, who has launched a number of programs which ultimately help us in strengthening our fight against tuberculosis also. I fondly recall his mission Swachhata Abhiyan, and we have seen ourselves the result of that Swachhata Abhiyan. It's not only about the crores of toilets that have been built in the country, but the culture that has changed all over the country, even amongst the poorest of the poor, and that is why now a lot of we find that there are a lot of significant positive changes that we have started observing in the parameters and the data also. Somebody reported to me the other day that the incidence of cervical cancer has started showing decline, because the women have more access to take care of the hygiene of their private parts because of these toilets. And a lot of data like this, with movements around. Now there is a movement for clean potable water for every citizen of the country. There is a movement where the Prime Minister wants to provide a good house to everyone in this country by 2022, and then of course the movement around Digital India, where he wants that everyone in this country should have access to all the health facilities, all the telemedicine, all the education, and more particularly health education messages, everything in his telephone. And there is a robust Poshan Abhiyan. There is a program for strengthening the nutritional activities all over the country to provide, and then of course the program for poverty alleviation. All these are big contributory factors. We have seen that even in these hard times of COVID, the country under the able leadership of Prime Minister Modi was able to provide free food to almost 800 million people in this country for over 6 months, and then to ensure that they don't succumb to further poverty and bad economic conditions. So money was also being transferred into their bank accounts. And then of course, to add to this, which was said by the earlier speakers also, in the recent years, the launch of the Ayushman Bharat, the launch of PMJ, and then of course the way we are strengthening the activity at the grassroots level for making health a big social movement, when the health and wellness centers all over the country which are being established, become movements for strengthening preventive health, positive health, promotive health. So I mentioned all this because this is, I think, the most opportune moment in history, because all the schemes of the government are indirectly also contributing to ensuring that we have optimum conditions and there is support from all sectors, all ministries for providing an environment where we can really see and ensure a good quality exit of the tubercular bacilli from the country. So this is the time when CII has rightly focused on these work-free, tuberculosis-free workplaces. I say this because you see, right now India has enough of good quality experience. We have been able to eliminate tuberculosis like smallpox and polio from this country, and when we started our fight against polio, we were home to 60% of the cases of the whole world, and we could still eliminate this. And now if we look at the recent experience of the last 6 months or so, we were affected so badly with COVID, and we literally started from a scratch, and from that scratch with say one lab going up to 1470 labs, and then in the month of April having just about a capability of a few thousand tests in a day. On the Independence Day we tested over 8 lakh people in the country. And then when we had the need to develop COVID specific infrastructure and the health facilities, we could develop over 15,000 dedicated COVID health facilities, hospitals and COVID care centers with over 15 lakh beds there. And if you add to these the beds that were provided in the quarantine facilities, it becomes almost 25 lakh beds. So what the fact that India in the recent times has been able to show its potential, not only talk about the potential, not only deliver that in the speeches, but India has been able to, and what to talk about the glorious history around the PPEs and the N95 masks and the ventilators, which we have now started exporting. This wholly last 6 months have become some sort of a blessing in disguise for the whole country. And this has all happened because everyone worked together. It's not the health ministry, but it was a total government approach, it was a total society approach. Everyone in the industry, everybody was contributing in the best possible manner. And when I say that, I have to thank the industry once again, because you have risen to the occasion right now for tuberculosis at the right moment. When I recall some 27 years back, and I say that again and again because I always feel indebted to the Indian industry and the people who rose to the occasion at that time, when I had the privilege and the blessing of God to dream about a polio-free India, and then to start working about it in Delhi. At that time when the dream actually appeared, there was hardly anything about the polio elimination or its eradication in our planned scheme. There was not even a single penny in the whole scheme of things. And immediately after the dream, we started working on it, and within the next 9 months we wanted to deliver on 2nd of October 1994. I remember that when we did not have a single penny, it was the reappropriation of 1 crore of rupees, 20 to 25 lakhs from 4 hospitals in Delhi for my health ministry in Delhi, and through which we started our work. But this was not a significant amount of money which could actually ensure that we could have a successful pulse polio program. And that was the time when some of the very respected leaders, it may not be proper to name different people because then I'll certainly miss many people from the industry, some of the respected leaders, industry leaders, they rose to the occasion. And lot of the support, or I would say the lot of success and a lot of issues that needed to be handled because we didn't have money, but everything required money. So we got a lot of support in kinds of all forms from the industry, from Rotary, from many other organizations, and it was virtually over 400 organizations in the city of Delhi which helped us see the successful delivery of the Pulse Polio program in October '94, which ultimately got the country a national program in '95. And then over the years we have worked together, the whole country stood up to the cause, and we could ultimately see the day when we were a certified polio-free nation. So I am very, very confident that with the ability and the experience that we have developed over the years, and it's not only about COVID, but in the past we have handled so many other diseases also. We didn't allow Ebola to enter our country in 2014. Last 2 years, we didn't allow the Nipah virus to get out of Kerala and affect the rest part of the country. We handled so many other, right from the likely epidemic of AIDS in the late 80s and 90s to whether it was swine flu or so many other things that have come, India has been able to handle. And now with the leadership of our Prime Minister, we have learned that we need to expand our medical education facilities, we need to expand our colleges, we need to expand our All India Institute of Medical Sciences. We have now expanded our network to even the remotest part of the country with over 40-50,000 health and wellness centers already created. Our telemedicine facilities where the guidance of the topmost doctor in the medical college is being delivered to the poorest of the poor in the remotest area, that is already in the process of, it's quite significantly established. You have heard about the National Digital Health Mission. So all these big contributory factors, and then the way the government's commitment has ensured that we have almost a fourfold increase in our spendings exclusively on tuberculosis elimination. There is a very ambitious program to increase the GDP spending on health. For the first time, the Finance Commission is going to bring only to health, and the Honorable Chairman of the Finance Commission has been very, very positive and very, very receptive to the needs of the health sector. And you will find that in the times to come, we have developed a very robust strategy for contributing through health for the development of a Atmanirbhar Bharat. And this is an India where every patient of tuberculosis, whether suffering from routine or from resistant, multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, where the cost of treating one patient amounts to almost ₹1,00,000, whether he is being treated in a government facility or whether he is treated by a private doctor in a private hospital or in his private clinic, each and every penny that is required for his treatment, it is being paid by the government of India. That is something unique, it's happening. And if a doctor in the private sector reports to our system that he is already treating a tuberculosis patient, and he puts that data in our registry, he gets honorarium for that. So, and then of course every patient, he gets financial support for strengthening his nutritional capability every month. And then, of course, to add to this, I remember 2014, I had launched when I was here in this ministry for a period of 6 months. I had launched the biggest survey, and recently again we have launched another big survey for detection of tuberculosis cases. In the last 1 or 2 years, we have, I think, been able to detect over almost a million of tuberculosis cases which were remaining undetected in this country, and which was a major challenge, and that has given us the confidence that we can now eliminate tuberculosis in this country by 25. All over the country, in almost it's not almost all the districts, we have now the CBNet and the TrueNet machines, where you can just detect in one single go whether the person suffers from a multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. You can start the adequate treatment. And I fondly remember that in the 90s, when I was health minister in Delhi, WHO, I had taken the help of the World Health Organization to launch two specific movements in Delhi. One was a healthy marketplaces and another was a healthy workplace. They were like small models which could be developed and which could further be emulated. Unfortunately, in 98 we didn't have further the government in Delhi. So we personally, at a personal level, I couldn't follow those activities in Delhi. But over the years, I have seen working with the World Health Organization as an advisor, there is a lot that could be done once you have taken up this issue of healthy workplaces. And I think you mean healthy industries, healthy tuberculosis-free industries. So, and there is a detailed program that has been developed whereby you are going to educate the industry people, sensitize them, ensure, while at one point you ensure that everyone who is working in the industry, whether a laborer or the top man, at least there is nobody suffering from tuberculosis. There is nobody suffering in the family of all these workers who are in the industry. And then I would suggest that the industry people could also basically take care of some areas, some cities, or some big people can take care of the states also. They have such a robust network of their own also. And if the industry and the CII gets in good quality collaboration with the government and with the state governments and with all the NGOs, there are so many NGOs now. There are so many people who have got themselves cured from tuberculosis. They are now working for us as TB warriors. They are in fact educating and motivating the society. So it's the right, opportune and the most optimum time to launch many activities like this. And once CII has realized that they need to step into tuberculosis elimination program. I will not talk about, there are so many ambitious goals that we have set for ourselves for delivering in the new India of the dreams of our Prime Minister by 2022. There are so many things that we want. We want every child to be immunized in the universal immunization program. We don't want to see any more maternal mortality and infant mortality and under 5 mortality, unless for whom the pregnancy becomes a curse. Pregnancy is a blessing. Pregnancy is a boon. It can't become a curse. So with such a robust health infrastructure, with such a dynamic industry, with so many educated people around, with so many serious and sincere social organizations working for the upliftment of the people, why should one pregnant woman or a child die in the country? And why should we not be able to provide vaccine to every child, in spite of such a robust universal immunization program delivering vaccine for almost a dozen vaccine preventable diseases. So there are many other things, elimination of programs like elimination of measles, Kala Azar, leprosy, on which the government is working. But right now I am very happy that CII today has focused on tuberculosis free workplaces. And if what you are showing in the exhibition, what is being discussed today, what has been talked about, if this actually becomes a reality in the working of the CII, which I am sure you will take it with the same amount of dedication and commitment and renewed vigor and enthusiasm. And I know when people like Chandrajit Banerjee are around, I have seen you working for almost 3 decades now in this organization. People have gone, people have come and gone, but I find you always there in the organization, leading from the front as a selfless worker. I am sure that you have the ability to bring everybody across the whole spectrum of industry in this. And my experience of polio eradication tells me very confidently that industry has the ability and industry has the spirit of selfless commitment also to deliver when the nation asked for it. So once again, I have to thank you all for all your support for our battle against COVID also in the trying times, and it is all because of the support of all of you than the rest of the world in all parameters, whether it is cases per million, whether it is deaths per million, whether it is tests per million, or whether it is the use of science and technology, whether it is the development of vaccines. We are not lagging behind anyone else in the whole world, and we fortunately have the blessings of our Prime Minister, we have the blessings of our dear doctors, our corona warriors, and I am sure that all of us together shall be able to see a day when we get rid of the dreaded tuberculosis also in this country. Thank you once again, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee and Dr. Naresh Trayan, for giving me the opportunity of being with all of you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your words of wisdom. You have always to work with you and to work under you to really partner yourself and your government and your ministry to work on some of these very important projects like you touched upon TV would be of great value for us, and we feel that here is someone with a proven track record. We all know the story of how you worked during the times you talked about 1994. We have seen the results such as what happened in the polio mission. So we know that we have a person who walks the talk and who has delivered and with a proven track record to work with you on these missions would be of great value and opportunity for us. And we will see to it that the private sector rises to the occasion as has been mentioned by you, and we will work as Team India once again under your leadership. We have a huge work ahead, a mammoth work, but huge targets and mammoth work come to those people who are able to deliver, and therefore, sir, it's all with you. And this huge challenge that the entire world is going through at this point in time, I just wanted to reiterate that we feel that India is in safe hands under the Prime Minister, under people like yourselves who are giving so much of their life and so much of their time and so much of their leadership to ensure that we do well. I just wanted to thank you once again for that. I'd also like to thank Mr. Ashwini Kumar Chaubey ji for his deep insight, sir. आपने जो opportunities के बारे में बताया, जो challenges हमारे सामने आए, हर challenge में opportunity दिखना चाहिए, और how India can be kept ahead. You mentioned about काफी सारे targets, आपने भी बात किए हैं कि कैसे इंडिया ने काफी सारे जगह पे विश्व में लीडरशिप रखे हैं इस फील्ड में, और आप ही ये रोग भारत के लिए हम आपका साथ आपका अंडर में आपका लीडरशिप में काम करना चाहूँगा, और आपका गाइडेंस अगर मिलते रहेंगे तो हम हम जरूर कामयाब होंगे सब मिलके. I also wanted to thank Dr. Vinod Paul for his very insightful points. All the three issues very well noted. Two in particular, participation of the larger hospitals, and of course the capacity building that you talked about for the private sector. We will always work with you, and we would continue to seek your inputs on these matters as to how that we can see to it that we are result oriented and we are able to provide outcomes. And as I say that with confidence because this year, Honorable Minister Sir, Mantriji, we have actually to form a public health council within the CII. A public health council which will be led by a person who again has proven track record, who has a person of immense leadership quality, a person who's a tall leader in this sphere, highly knowledgeable, Dr. Guleria. So he has taken on this very important area of work to lead CII in this sphere of public health, which gives us confidence that our agenda on public health will be high and or rather highest, and second, that we will be able to deliver under such a very able leadership of Dr. Guleria, which I just wanted to tell our honorable ministers that we therefore mean to deliver, and we would see to it that come together to see to it that we are able to meet up with this huge challenge in front of us and effectively so. So once again, thank you very much, honorable ministers, for this participation and for this huge blessing. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our esteemed guests, and with that we come to the close of our inaugural. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः. ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. आइए महामृत्युंजय मंत्र का 11 बार उच्चारण करें. ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे